Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and this GOP representative has had enough. He has had it up to here with FEMA not only misallocating resources, but being absolutely terrible at what it does.
Do you see the absurdity that American citizens are getting their 750 and then, yes, struggling through a very complicated process to meet the thresholds necessary to get the aid they need to have housing, food, and shelter, while your agency is contracting with not-for-profits to easily hand out access to those who are here placed here illegally? Do you see the absurdity?
Congressman, our mission is to support people, help people before, during, and after disasters. And
do you think that there is, ma'am, do you think in responding to an emergency, the priority of government ought to be to ensure that American citizens are triaged and that the services of FEMA are focused on responding to them and their service programs first?
I absolutely believe that the services that FEMA provides should be supporting the people that have been impacted by disasters.
Should there be equity in that distribution and response? Should there be fairness in that response?
We should make sure that all people have access to our programs and that we
Fair enough.
remove the barriers.
So this is my time, and I get 2 minutes to do it. So in fairness, do you not see the inequity in those placed here illegally having taxpayers support a plane ticket, a house, a hotel, food, cell phones, access to health care? Do you not see the inequity that they have access immediately? I want us to be a welcoming nation, but if we cannot respond to those who are living in emergencies, then we do not have the right to claim that we are the Federal Emergency Management Administration. Do you not see the inequity?
Congress directed.
No, Congress established law. You have to prioritize, triage, and decide. During COVID, there were federal agencies and local governments who were responsible for providing lots of services. We said, in this emergency, you're not going to do that. We told federal employees, get back out onto the ground because you've got to respond to a public health pandemic, and most of them were never involved in public health response. When they see individuals enter this country illegally and then are transported here and receiving services, and you know that it is easier to access the shelter and services funding than it is to access disaster relief aid, housing assistance, small business aid. You know that it's more complicated. Doesn't that in and of itself fuel the misinformation?
Congressman, we are administering that program as directed by Congress.
You are not administering the program as directed by Congress. We established the law, we established the provisions, and we expect the person, whether it's the president or the administrator of FEMA, to decide what is and is not priority in response to emergency. And by that very measure, with all due respect, the agency has failed.
Give him a round of applause. Folks, that representative is not a Southern man. He is a Republican, but Mr. Molinaro is a representative from New York. And New York isn't exactly known for its natural disasters. It might get a really heavy snowstorm, and my guess is if it's the 19th, no, 19th probably sounds like it's still in the New York City area. So I was going to compare it to the Buffalo region where they still get the lake snow effect. But no, those areas know what they're doing because they're used to snow. You know what the North Carolina, East Tennessee region's not used to? Hurricane force winds and flooding. And it wasn't just Hurricane Helene. Days before Hurricane Helene, a massive low pressure system came in and dumped a couple of inches of rain in that region. And Helene got sucked into that vortex and then dumped even more rain, causing devastating floods. Now, I'm not from the North Carolina region, all right? My family is from southern East Tennessee, right at the very edge of I don't think that's technically the Cumberland Plateau, but I know that's part of the last bit of the Long Valley region that hits at the edge of Chattanooga. That's where my mom's family comes from. My dad's family is all from North Georgia, all right? Right at the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains, quite literally around the area called Blue Ridge. So we're not too far away from those western North Carolina mountain areas. So that's genetically very close to people in my own family. So I understand them. I know where they're coming from. I know how they live. And I know that they're hardworking, gutsy people. And they just watched everything get washed away through these torrential floods. Hey y'all, I'm not exactly looking at retirement anytime soon, but my parents are, and friends of my parents are, and I'm sure either you or someone you know is looking at retirement and wondering, what do I do? How do I help prepare for this in this economy with this terrible president and with a vice president who basically coup d'etat him and is now looking to run for president herself? How do you protect against this? Well, simple. You go over to my friends at Colonial Metals Group. They quite literally have something called the Retirement Package Plan. This plan backs your wealth with gold and silver accounts. And furthermore, you will have direct access to these accounts. So you're not at the whims of Wall Street. You're not at the whims of inflation. You are in command of your own destiny. As a bonus, qualified applicants can receive up to $10,000 in free silver, plus a couple of other little goodies that they're going to package up for you, and you're going to be able to protect your wealth and your retirement. So go over to this link in the description below at colonialmetalsgroup.com or call this number 800-203-0422 and see how they can help you prepare for retirement today by backing your account with gold and silver. Don't delay your retirement, folks. Protect the money that you earned with Colonial Metals Group. They're here to help. And what did FEMA do? Well, there isn't just allegations, there is actual proof, and even a woman who has been fired for refusing to go to areas that just so happen to be supporting Donald Trump. All right, she quite literally in a memo said, hey, don't go to these regions with Donald Trump supporters. All right, move on to the next one. And she got fired for it. There needs to be a larger investigation into that, but the people of the South know that FEMA has been completely and utterly useless in pretty much all states except Florida. And why is Florida an exception? Well, they've had years of good leadership, time and time again under Republicans. Plus, they're a little bit more developed than these other regions. For instance, Katrina hit southern Louisiana and parts of Gulfport, Mississippi. And that region isn't as developed. And as a matter of fact, there was even a PBS special saying that Lake Pontchartrain was a huge threat to flood New Orleans 1 year before Katrina. And then after the BP oil spill, FEMA took forever to do anything to fix that problem. So they're good in Florida because it's easier for them to work with people in that region, but they're terrible everywhere else because they don't have the resources, they don't know the people, and they're terrible at getting those resources to the people who need it the most. This should be a huge red flag anytime anyone wants to come up and say, hey, we can afford all these extra illegal migrants. As a matter of fact, let's send them money. And even worse, under the Biden administration, on multiple occasions, money from FEMA was redirected to help out migrants, often illegal ones. Tell me somewhere where that makes sense. In the comments, tell me where that makes sense. Someone's got to explain it to me somewhere. Some Democrat has to be watching this show and has to say, you know what, Brian? I had the answer for you. I really need to see this because I don't see it. I don't see it. It sounds just insane to me. And this representative is rightly mad. And this FEMA rep, this poor woman, she's trying to toe the line. She's trying to defend herself and she's trying to defend her department. But truth be told, under a new administration, perhaps under a, Department of Government Efficiency, maybe they could start streamlining some issues and figure out where you can cheaply and much more safely actually help people under major duress from natural disasters. That's what FEMA is supposed to be doing, and they have failed time and time again, particularly in southern states. This is just abysmal. You'd think that they would have learned from their mistakes over the past 20 years of fumbling the football, and yet no, they have not. And instead, under the Biden administration, they funnel money from FEMA to illegal migrants. There was a reason the 2024 election was such I can't call it a landslide, but it was such a pivotal point in American history. And it was mainly because of the ridiculous amounts of money that we're giving to illegal immigrants, often illegal criminals. And I'm not talking about criminals who have crossed illegally. I'm talking about criminals who have come over from the prison system in Venezuela, who've been released by Democratic DAs that don't want to prosecute or work with ICE. Folks, this is a clown world, and I am tired of living in it. It is time to get out of the clown car. It's time to take off the makeup. It's time to put on some real shoes, take off the clown shoes, put on your Nikes. Let's start getting to work and fixing these major problems. Because when we can't even help our own citizens, We should not be helping the citizens of the world. It should be that simple, and FEMA needs to take responsibility for their actions, and more often than not, their inactions. And I hope that with the Vivek and Elon working hand in hand, we can start firing people who don't really need to be there while finding easier ways to work with companies. For instance, my dad has worked a long time with the AT&T emergency services. You'd think that the federal government would love to talk with these people on how to get generators, on how to get people, how to get boots on the ground, talk with groups like Samaritan's Purse, which is based out of Boone, North Carolina. You'd think that the federal government would want to work with these non-government entities, but hopefully that's going to start changing with the new regime starting in this January. Let's hope that the Department of Government Efficiency hits the ground running and starts doing what is necessary to help the American people without costing an arm and a leg. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Political. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.